So I'm out here at Lake Travis right now, and you see that fence line right there. On the other side of it, it's private property. It's where I got scuba certified this last year. They sunk a sailboat down there, and the class that I took, you go down to the sailboat and a little bit further. And yeah, scuba's neat. That's fun. So this is Lake Travis. This is the Colorado River, which is what my property's on. Except what they do is they put in hydroelectric dams, and they stop it up. So where they have it stopped up with dams, they call it a lake. And then Austin has the last dam going out to the coast. And so it's a river then. That's what my property's on. And yeah, this lake is incredible. It's like 69 miles long. It's nice and full right now. It's been in drought and really low. So we got our sunset here. I'm gonna just record a little bit right here what's on my mind. And then I'll probably pull out the P900 and record the sunset with that. This is called Windy Point Park. And fortunately it's not windy today. So what I was doing is I was thinking about where to start the vlog. And I guess what makes sense is to sort of start with me. And me, Jason Laufenberg, I was born September 1st, 1972 in Ripon, Wisconsin. And Ripon's a small town, about 7,000 people in Wisconsin. The only thing that it's really known for is it's supposedly the birthplace of the modern day Republican Party. So it's got that. But it's small, it's out in the country. Oshkosh is the city that we used to have to go to. And Oshkosh is known for their overhauls and the EAA, which is the Experimental Aircraft Association fly-in. I guess the largest one in the world. So I grew up in Ripon to my parents that, I was born and raised a Jehovah's Witness. They were active Jehovah's Witnesses. They raised me as a Jehovah's Witness. It's the only thing I ever knew. And so if you know Jehovah's Witnesses, they come in different levels, different strengths. And some are very strict, some are moderate, and some are weak. And they were pretty strict. I mean, not the strictest, but pretty strict. And so I wasn't allowed to associate with people that weren't Jehovah's Witnesses. And because we're in a small town out in the country in Wisconsin, there were no other Jehovah's Witnesses my age. And so I wasn't allowed to have friends until I was old enough to drive and could drive far enough to where there was a congregation that there was a kid 3 years older than me. And I guess he was looking for a friend too. So I was 16 when I had my first friend. It didn't bother me though. There's things within the Jehovah's Witnesses that they're benefits too. I knew people in a tri-state area, and I knew people even like five, 6 states around me. When we would go to our conventions, I had friends from Illinois and Minnesota and Michigan and Iowa and Nebraska. I had friends there because it was a small community. Your reach had to go farther in order to find people that you could hang out with. So it's a give and take with the Jehovah's Witnesses. I do not mind having grown up one, but I did, and my parents still are. They are active Jehovah's Witnesses. My dad has a huge, huge, huge tender heart. And it crushes him to no end that I am not a Jehovah's Witness. It pains him greatly. And as it does me, the other direction, the fact that he is, that I've done research and I've got stuff that I want him to look at, and he just won't do it. So growing up a Jehovah's Witness, I learned how to go from door to door. I used to knock on doors and witness to people, read them scriptures. I became very good at debating people. When it came to proving creation versus evolution, it's a slam dunk. Any evolutionist that I came across, I could back them into a corner, and eventually they would have to give up and just say that I was wrong and not defend it. So I got smart at debating and interacting with people like that. The Jehovah's Witnesses have what they call a theocratic ministry school. So what they do is there's a meeting each week where members of the congregation will get to give parts on their meetings. So they'll be up on stage and they'll give a talk, or they'll give some sort of presentation, they call it. You know, basically what they would say to somebody at a door. So these are training methods, and they had books and they had instructors, and you'd be graded. And I was a good student. I learned how to speak well, how to speak in front of audiences, how to use hand gestures, voice inflection. You're graded on all these things, and you didn't pass until you actually did a good enough job. So once again, I have to thank them. That was how many people can say that they've had that kind of public speaking education before. I have that, so I don't mind that. So I was a good Jehovah's Witness. They're very strict, very moral, and I stayed out of trouble. I think the first time I kissed a girl, I was 19 years old. I did break rules, I sinned. But I wasn't a drinker. The first time I got wasted when I was out at Bethal, and so Bethal is the headquarters for Jehovah's Witnesses, and I got invited. I applied, but then got invited or accepted to be at their headquarters. So I was a Bethalite, and you have to be like in good standing. You have to and be a hard worker. They don't take the schmucks out there. So I did good. I was successful. I got out to Bethel, and I worked really hard for them. They really loved me as a worker. But while I was there, I became disillusioned with the religion, and things started falling apart for me. It wasn't what I had envisioned at all. And what I saw was a corporate entity that the bottom line came first. So things fell apart. I left there. I went back to my home congregation where my parents were, and people didn't know that I had doubts yet, but you could start to see it when I was back home. I started doing things like dyeing my hair white. The music that I was listening to had changed. I had turned 21 while I was out at Bethel. And when I came back, I was drinking and partying pretty heavily, which had to be kept under wraps being a Bethel, ex-Bethelite. So I was leading the double life. And so at this point, I'm going to wrap up this video, but maybe on the next video where I'll start is where I met my first wife and what happened with that.